Welcome to Nicstalgia, the pop culture podcast where we have deep conversations about superficial things. I'm your host, Nicole Tremaglio, and each week my guests and I deep dive on the parts of pop culture that made them who they are today. If you like the show, please follow, rate, and review on your platform of choice. Watch us on YouTube and Spotify, and subscribe to our super fun newsletter at nicstalgia.substack.com. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nicstalgia. I am extremely excited today because I have a very special guest. It's my friend Nora. And when I say friend, I don't say that in any kind of casual way. I mean we have been friends now for over 20 years, taking it back to middle school. I've never felt old. I feel very young at heart, and I feel like Nora absolutely does too. So we're going to talk about really all of our shared interests, the things that brought us together, the things that keep us together in culture and art and music and all the things that we love. So welcome, Nora.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I love you, Nicole. Yes, I've known Nicole since I was 11, 12. I don't think we were friends until we were 12, but we were in the same middle school. We were in the same classes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you were always so cool. I was like, oh, this girl, she's got it. She's got it going on. I want to be friends with her.
Thank you. I mean, same here. It was like we went to middle school, and growing up in the early 2000s, and especially this was like the peak of bubblegum pop and that kind of pop explosion, which we loved, but also we really bonded over our upbringing with classic rock and mostly our love for Queen. We were also big fans of the Beatles, and I just have a really core memory of going to your house and your parents had a record player and put on the Beatles, and we just danced around the house to the Beatles. And I'm like, I could only do this with Nora right now.
Oh,
and
that makes me so happy.
So special.
Yeah, Beatles is a big deal with my family. Like, we grew up doing that same thing. Like, we would put on a Beatles record because my dad and my mom both grew up when the Beatles were still coming out. And like, we would put on, just their oldest albums, and we would dance along with my dad and like my mom. So Beatles, yeah, absolutely. Queen, you and me and Queen. I think I just like, I remember like talking to you about things and just being like, okay, she gets it. She understands.
Yeah. I mean, with Queen, it wasn't even just like, okay, you start with the greatest hits, then you work your way through the studio albums. It was like the deepest of the deep cuts. We could have so many immediate inside jokes because of the relative obscurity, like the level that we would both go to. And I think that especially as, like literally kids, that was something that is, I don't want to say unusual with any kind of negative connotation, but like it was just a way where you're like, wow, I feel, and you don't really have the verbiage at the time to say it, but you're like, wow, I feel seen and understood by this person because we connect over this particular piece of culture that is not particularly popular or resonant with other people.
That's right. And it's so funny because there's so many artists from that time period when we were in high school. So that's probably when we were in high school, when we were like really listening to like pop music, right? I did not listen to pop music. I was like, I'm too cool. I listen to Simon and Garfunkel. Like, I'm so cool. Like, wow. I know, like... Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. To me, I thought I was the coolest kid, but obviously I was just like, I don't like pop. I love pop music so much now, and I feel like I missed out on the high school thing. I feel like I could go into so many stories. Like the only time I remember really listening to high school songs, pop songs, back in what was this? So like 2004 through 2008. Okay, was Prom.
Yeah.
Dancing to Get Low, you gotta. And then also going tanning. Tanning was a big thing when we were in high school. It was like, gotta be tan. That's why Jersey Shore always made sense to me. I'm like, they understand my high school. Everyone had to be tan.
There are certain songs that I specifically associate with going tanning as well. Do you have any?
Yes, definitely. Sexy Back, Justin Timberlake. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that playing while okay, so Nicole and I grew up in New England where it's very cold in the winter. And we're getting ready for prom by going tanning. So we'd go to the tanning, this bad little tanning
you
place.
You can say shitty.
Okay, I don't know.
and it truly was. That's the best word to describe
Tommy's
it.
Tanning? No, it wasn't Tommy's. It was the one Tropical or something.
I
don't know.
went to South Beach.
South Beach. It was just this little one. I don't know, but like the smell of vanilla and like tanner just brings me back there. And I do remember just like when you're in the freezing, and I'm someone who deals with like seasonal affective disorder. And like you're tanning in the thing, you just feel so good. Also, you're getting skin cancer, so that's a problem. My mom found out. I told my mom I was getting spray tan. She found out I was getting real tan, like sun tanned, like with the bed, and she was so mad at me. She was so mad. She couldn't. She's like, "You're gonna get skin cancer," and she's probably right. I'm sure I have. You know, it's all over my body right now.
Yeah, I think when my mom found out, I was probably like, I'm Italian. I'm supposed to be tan.
Italian. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying about Jersey Shore. Like when Jersey Shore came out, it's like they're all trying to get tan. And then when I went to college, everyone got into Twilight. And everyone was like, no, you got to be pale now. And I'm like, damn it, what do I do? You can't win.
You can't win. The song I think of when I think of tanning is Beautiful Liar by Shakira and Beyonce.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And you know,
here's specific.
Don't talk to me about Shakira. No. I'm in love with Shakira, but honestly, I'm one of those people that's like, I only like her Spanish stuff. I'm a little bit of a Shakira snob, if you'd say. 6th grade, I had her pictures. I printed them off of my Gateway computer printer, you know, and put them in my locker. And I'm sure people were like, "Oh, she likes women. She loves Shakira." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I love Shakira. What? Why would
who doesn't love Shakira?
First of all, who doesn't love women? Like, she was so beautiful, and like, yeah, I used to. That's how I learned Spanish. Is I would listen to her Spanish CDs, and they were she's wonderful. She was like the Spanish, like I would say she was like the Colombian, like Alanis Morissette in the beginning. Yep, and then she kind of, you know, she went on her own thing.
Yeah. I think that was an interesting time too, like in the early 2000s when you had a bit of this like Latin pop explosion as well. I've always been a huge Enrique fan as well. And
you remember that? And do you remember that Enrique song with Christina? I forget it, but I bet I could
Ricky
sing it
Martin and Christina.
Oh,
Nobody wants to be lonely.
Nobody wants to be. That's what I was thinking. Oh crap! Okay, that was Ricky Martin. That's horrible of me. Enrique did his video with the tennis girl who he was dating at the time.
Yeah, Anna Kournikova.
That's why you and me, Nicole, like we get each other. We know those cultural references.
Yeah.
So silly. Oh, I love it.
Me too. And a huge moment that we shared throughout middle school was being in the talent show. That was like really important. I don't have any of that on video. Do you?
No, that's the funniest thing. I remember people, so this was 2001 through 2004, right? Middle school talent shows. So we still had VHS tape players back then, like tape recorders. That would, No, my family didn't care that much enough to tape my. They're like, she's singing a weird song. She's singing a Weird Al song. She's singing a song from Rent. Ew, I don't know. But I do remember parents having their tapes. So someone out there has those tapes.
Someone out there, if anyone listening has the tape of any DePaulo Middle School talent show, please send it to us. And then the other thing that I'm looking for that you would be the only person I would know to ask is, because I joined cheerleading in 8th grade because of you. The mix CD, because we had a CD and it was 6 songs, and
I might.
one of them had our competition song on it, and the other just had songs that we would practice, and it was all of the like violently aggressive cheerleading music.
We still remember the
whole dance.
The one song is like, it's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. The funniest thing about, especially, I had never, like, when I joined cheerleading, it was like, oh, this will make me popular. I was not popular. No one gave a shit. It doesn't work, guys. Don't do it. So I was like, I'm going to be a cheerleader and be popular. Didn't work. But it was fun because I got to, like, do dances. And then all of a sudden we got a new coach. When you came in, we got a new coach who was, like, really cool. Like, I'm not complaining. This is not a bad thing. She like found you, some of the other girls, and like did this whole choreography, and I was a flyer, and I'm terrified of heights. It was horrible. But you like shined. I do remember that, just being like so impressed, like, oh my God, I didn't know this girl could dance. Like, I'm just trying to dance like Shakira, like move my hips a little bit.
Your hips don't lie before the song even came out.
Middle school was a time. I'm sorry, guys. We went to our first week of middle school was 9/11. Like,
Right. So that was something that, okay, I usually keep it pretty light on the show, but that was something that we wanted to talk about, just about how, like, literally the first week of middle school for us was, like, September 11th, 2001. So how do you think that impacted us as a generation? How do you think it affected pop culture? I saw recently someone saying, like, don't you think it's kind of crazy how the week leading up to 9/11 like, was supposed to be like the best music releases, and like Glitter was supposed to get released that day, and like all
Glitter.
Of this stuff.
Oh God, Mariah Carey. Oh girl. I think about this all the time. I don't know if it's because I'm a very sensitive person, and I don't know about you. I was pretty traumatized by 9/11. We literally, like you just said, it was a week into our first year in middle school. So 6th grade. Yeah, it was our first year in middle school. I don't know if you remember what class you're in. But
I do.
I do too. It's so horrible. But I think it has a profound impact on our generation. And I guess you could call it like, millennials, but I do think specifically younger millennials. Just because we were like, at that point, I don't think I had ever seen a horror movie. I don't think I had ever seen a thriller, really. I had seen Star Wars, but that's nothing. And to have a horrific thing happen in real time. I was in, okay, so let's talk about what class we were in. I want to hear what class you're in, because we were in the same middle school, remember? Mm-hmm. I was in, I don't know if you remember him, but he was an art teacher. He was kind of a jerk. And then we left that art class, and he wouldn't tell us anything. He refused to. We left the art class, and there was an announcement that was like, okay, guys, the buses are here, go home, and we won't tell you why. Ask your parents. The problem is my parents work until like 6 o'clock. So I'm home at like 12 alone, waiting for my sisters to get home from high school, and just like terrified, thinking that the entire world is blowing up. And I remember it being very confusing. And a lot of people have different, our age, have different experiences with that. Like they saw it, or somebody like, I've heard stories of people like, oh, my teacher brought in the TV and we watched it live. I'm like, no, it's horrible.
I think I might have had a TV in the room.
No.
I think that I did, because I was in room 69, I remember, in science class. So I was on the same side of the building as you. You were on the front side of the building. I was on the back side of the building. And I was in science class, and I do think they brought in the TV, and I just totally did not understand what was happening.
It looked like a horror movie. It really did. It looked like a apocalypse movie, and it was hard to believe.
I was also like, when you mentioned horror movies and whatnot, like there was a certain movie that came out maybe a little bit earlier than that, and I remember seeing a giant poster of it in the Southington movie theater.
The cinemas,
Yeah, and just being like absolutely terrified. I don't know why. Whenever I would see horror movie covers in Blockbuster, I would feel not just like, oh, that's scary, or oh, I don't like it, but I would feel like visceral, like absolute panic. Even
Yep.
as a child, like I was just always, anything visual like really, really scared me. And so, other than that, I guess I'd never experienced something. I didn't even have that reaction when this happened because I was so confused.
It was
And
out of
I
nowhere.
remember going home, and my sister was actually homesick that day from school, so my mom was home with her. So I got home, and I just didn't really get what was going on. But then we lived on a cul-de-sac, so the neighbors were out and talking and whatnot. And then I just remember that night my parents were like glued to the TV and watching what was going on, and I was like, oh, I just want to like watch SpongeBob, to be honest with you. I remember feeling very like avoidant about it, because I didn't really know how to react. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what that meant. And I grew up very comfortable in a way where like I didn't have to be political in any kind of way either, and I didn't have to understand what it meant, for our culture and for our society. And also we're from Connecticut. We lived close enough where it was more of like a second degree kind of thing. Like everyone knew someone who knew someone who was there, as opposed to, we both lived in New York, where it's like when you meet people from New York and they have a first degree connection, it gets a lot closer. So I definitely felt a little bit removed and a little bit insulated, to be honest.
It was like this weird, like, eye widening thing. Like all of a sudden you're like slapped in the face with reality and politics and geopolitical problems. And also seeing something that looks like it should be in a Michael Bay movie. Just explosions. It was so scary, and I was very cognizant of it, and I took it with me for a long time. I lived in New York City. You and I both did, actually. And I do remember the 10th anniversary, I still lived in Brooklyn, and they had like the lights, and I remember going up to my roof on that night and just like feeling it. And then I had to be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Like it's hard, and it was a scary experience, but there's a lot of scary things happening now. It's just very funny to me to like, I really want to tell, if I had to tell one thing to Gen Z, it's just like, y'all, none of this is normal. Like none of this is normal. I'm sorry. Like all of these things have happened since we were kids, and everything's ramped up all of a sudden. So all of these divisions, all of these horrible things that are happening, it feels like that's not normal. I don't know. It's very sad to think of like my nieces and nephews who I love so much. I don't want them to grow up in this world. I want them to like have what we had, where it was just like fun 90s. Wee, like Tamagotchi.
Yeah. You'd mentioned a little bit earlier how, you were still living in New York. And so I recently rewatched the first season of Girls and of Broad City. And so millennial women in New York City in the 2010s is like our zeitgeist. And so I'm really interested to hear about, like, if you feel like those things were, especially living in Brooklyn too, like if they were realistic or if they were not, or if you were to have made your own show about your experiences, what would have been different?
Oh, God. Okay, so I'll preface this by saying I've never seen Girls. It was on, I think it started when I was still in Brooklyn. So it was kind of like one of those things. I remember it being a big deal, and everyone was like, oh God, this is us. Like it did feel, except that I do believe that like a lot of those girls on that show were more privileged than I am. I'm privileged, but I'm not that privileged. Sorry, I'm not. So that was like, man, that was when hipster became a term. Like when I went to school in Brooklyn, like 2009, 2010, hipster became a big thing. But from what I have seen of Girls, that's Brooklyn. That's Brooklyn. I've had good times, bad times in Brooklyn. I lived there in different neighborhoods. lots of different neighborhoods, nice neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods, whatever you think that means. And it's a whole I don't know. Okay, so another question you had was, if I made a show about my time in Brooklyn, it would be called it'd be probably Just Like Girls. I think I would just be it would just be like the many loves of Nora, because all my friends, like, I had so many crazy weird experiences when I lived there. Late teens, early 20s. You're going everywhere. It was craziness. But now, yeah, I think it'd be different.
Yeah, two things that come to mind when I think of Nora's Brooklyn era is, number one, when I came to visit you at college. This was maybe freshman or sophomore year. That was the first time I ever took the subway in New York City. You met me at Grand Central, and we went all the way back to Brooklyn together. And I'm like, I never thought I would have moved to New York, because people were like, well, you do fashion, like, shouldn't you move there? I'm like, I shouldn't do anything. And you know
I'll do
what?
whatever
I moved there
want.
on my terms. So it was good. And then the other thing I think of was one time, it was just like a random weekend, and you texted me because you were at the same party or house or whatever as Toby from Degrassi.
Oh yeah, he was at my apartment. No, he was at my apartment. he stayed overnight. Yes,
he
Toby
just got married recently.
Hi,
he
Toby.
Stayed at your apartment.
Toby from Degrassi. I follow you on Twitter. You might still follow me, but you stayed at my apartment with a bunch of Canadian friends. I had some Canadian roommates, and yeah, he was really nice. He's a very sweet man. Toby deserves better. You had the N. I didn't have the N, so I couldn't watch Degrassi unless it was at your house.
We love Degrassi. So Degrassi and Queen and Zanga, like, I was really obsessed with Zanga. We were both like very, well, I guess as an early adopter as you can be when you're like 12 or 13 years old, but like, we were always talking on AIM. We were always talking on Zanga, where like you would write a diary entry basically like to your friends about all your inside jokes of school, and then we would see each other at school. And so it was just this very, I'm so reminiscent for MySpace era, because that truly felt like the best integration of digital and in-person life in a way that like people posture online now in a way that we didn't back then. Like it truly was more, I guess authentic's a buzzword, but it's true in that like we were really just having different touch points with each other to stay in communication, and it just felt like there was this continuity that has not existed since.
It didn't feel so much like look at me. Like I do feel like people have that problem with influencer culture these days, which I can understand. But yeah, I think there were a few people who back in the MySpace days took advantage of that and were like probably the early Tila Tequila. And Jeffree Star.
These all aged very badly.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Tom from MySpace, he's still hanging out by that whiteboard. Like, he's still just like, yeah.
Shout out to Tom.
MySpace felt pure. Like, nobody was trying to be... I mean, there were people, but I mean, like, most people were just using it not to get famous, but to just, like, have a fun way to to be with your friends and show your personality. And that was what a lot of I guess what you would call the early, it's not really the early, I guess early internet would be like early 90s, but I mean like early internet, like early social media. I would say it was probably like late 90s, early 2000s. I was on Greatest Journal, not LiveJournal. Sorry guys, Greatest Journal, which actually shut down while I was using it. That's interesting. Zanga, you and I, you, Meg, and I would write on our Zangas, which was, just like a blog thing, a personal blog. And we would write to each other and be like, first period, I did this, and I talked to this cute boy. Second period, I said hi to Nicole, and Nicole said this funny thing. Nicole, do you remember that? And then and then I'd go to your entry for that day, and you'd be like, yeah, Nora, I remember that. We would talk to each other.
Yeah.
It was really cute.
It was so cute. Yeah, because it was so pure.
Yes.
Truly. And yeah.
I miss those days. Like, I was just talking to Chris, my husband. I was just like, I'm tired of the internet. I feel like there's days where I feel like it is the worst invention that has ever been made, but it's really just what people did with it. Because when we had an early internet, that was when I was 5 years old, I got my first AOL address. And it's just the way we use it. But I do miss those nice early days.
I know, I do too. Okay, so another thing we wanted to talk about was like early memes and YouTube videos. I know that there are certain ones for me, whether it was like shoes or muffins or Charlie bit my finger, things, A David After Dentist, those things come to mind. Were there any certain early YouTube that you're like, oh, Kittens Inspired by Kittens was another one I loved.
Yes. Mine was because when I had, it was 10th grade, sophomore year, we had iPods. It was like iPods you could put videos on. You had to download them onto your iPod. You couldn't just download, And I would always get salad fingers. Salad fingers.
I knew you were going to say that.
Fingers. Who remembers? Yes, salad fingers. I'm still a huge fan. David Firth, he did salad fingers, and I remember one of my friends. You probably know her, but she was one of my friends from marching band, and she was like, "You got to see this," and I was like, "This is the weirdest." I like weird stuff, so I was like, "I'm gonna show all my friends." That was one of the things I would put on my iPod video to just like show people. That one and salad fingers, and then Charlie the Unicorn.
I knew that was the other one you were going to say. Oh, I love it.
Oh, and Adventure Time. Before Adventure Time became an actual TV show, back when we were still in high school, it didn't become a TV show until we were well into college, but they had just like a YouTube video out on YouTube, and I showed it to everyone because I thought it was the funniest thing, and I was so happy that they actually got to like make it into a real show. It's incredible. Yeah. So yeah.
I love that. Taking it back a little bit, I know that you love Disney Channel original movies.
So much.
What are your favorites, and what one do you think was the most weird or obscure that you enjoyed?
Oh, I know. Okay, I know the answer to that one for sure. But I'm so happy you asked this. I'm a huge Disney Channel. I remember when they started Disney Channel original, before anyone, there was okay. I won't even get into it, okay? It was amazing. I'll tell you my first. My first one was Under Wraps. That was the first time I remember being a Disney Channel original movie and premiering. And I saw it when it premiered. Obsessed. I have it. But the weirdest one that no one remembers, I've never met another person that ever remembers this one. It's called Can of Worms. And it is horrifying. It's like these weird, like this guy like sends a beam up into space and it calls these aliens down, and the aliens are all these weird like puppets, and they're horrifying and disgusting, and it's disgusting. It's really good for a Disney Channel movie, and we have that one too, and we watch it, and like no one remembers that one. There's so many, like that one specifically. Stepsister from Planet Weird, that was a good one. Pixel Perfect. People remember that one. But I think that one was right before High School Musical came out. High School Musical, I always view as the turning point for Disney Channel merch. They were like, oh, this will get money. Let's just do that from now on for the rest of it. But right before that, everything was better. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Gen Z, but ugh.
I loved Wish Upon a Star.
That movie taught me what a hickey was.
Oh my God.
On Disney Channel.
My favorite part is where the younger sister, well, I guess it's the older sister as the younger sister, shows up to school like in a dominatrix costume and dances on the cafeteria table.
Chains. Oh my God, your girl. What's her name? She was from
So the younger one's name is Danielle. I forgot her last name, but she ended up becoming a scream queen and has been in like a ton of different horror movies, which is why I don't know her last name because I don't watch horror movies. And then Katherine Heigl was the older sister.
Katherine Heigl, yes. So Katherine Heigl, because I remember, I didn't know that at the time. No one knew who she was until
Right.
She was on Grey's Anatomy, right? And yeah, when she, when I found that out, I was like, oh my God, that was the 90s. That I feel like that movie to me is second to Clueless in terms of 90s like popular girl outfits. There was like a weird, like she had like a blue pleather like two-piece with like a skirt that was like stiff and then like a t-shirt. It was horrible, but it was so cute. I know
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, good. I knew you would.
Yes, I know. The fashion in that movie was so good. I want to bring up that you have a lovely physical media collection behind you, and I'm in the midst of a physical media renaissance. I particularly see Nelly Furtado's Loose CD.
There it is.
Amazing.
And as I told you before, this is my husband's. It's not actually mine. If you want to see my CD collection, wait, let me get my CD collection. It's right there. But yes, Nelly Furtado. This was like her big one, guys. It wasn't my favorite. To be honest, but this one, yeah, Maneater, Promiscuous, and none of the other ones that I remember. So yeah, Nelly Furtado's there. There's a lot of good stuff back here. It's all like ska bands and like late 90s, early 2000s, like emo bands.
That's amazing.
One moment.
Wait, do you have a CD binder?
I was an idiot. Well, okay, I was like 14, and I was like, I don't need these cases. I just need the CD, and I'll put it in a big CD thing. So I have two of these, so there's a whole nother one of these. But, like, I will tell you. Okay, so my husband made this for me when we were 14. Late B-Day present woot.
Oh, my God. I love that you still have mixed CDs. I am an idiot, and I got rid of my CD binder that I used to keep in my car.
Katie Rose. I don't know if no one will remember Katie Rose, but she was my girl. Her song was a song that's playing when in Mean Girls. When they're at
Overdrive?
What's Her Face's. Yes. I have her whole album and it's so good. I used to listen to it and like run around like away from my parents and be like, I'm so mad. Like I hate them. Like there's Shakira Unplugged. Oh yeah, you know it. I've got Veggie Tales because, okay, another thing I don't know people if remember, but like LimeWire and like all those things where you could download music. So my sister or my friends would just download the weirdest shit and just like a random song from Rent that I ended up singing for my 6th grade talent show. Veggie Tales theme song, Fish Heads, a song from The Simpsons, and we just put it on a CD because that's what you could find on the internet, and that was about it.
Yeah.
A lot of Beatles. I have a lot of Beatles in here. Yep, Lily Allen, big Lily Allen fan.
Yeah.
Shakira, Laundry Service.
Oh, that was the breakthrough.
Weird Al.
I was obsessed with Weird Al.
I'm still obsessed with Weird Al.
I'm still obsessed. Did you see the movie?
No,
the Weird Al
I hate
movie?
myself. I haven't seen. Well, it was during the pandemic. Listen,
it's free, I think, on something.
I have to watch it. I love
it.
I love Daniel Radcliffe too, so I'm really excited to see it. Yes, I heard he actually Weird Al saw. Speaking of Queen, he saw Bohemian Rhapsody and was like, oh wow, so I can make a biopic with no basis in fact. Great. And decided to make his biopic with no basis in fact. And like I've talked to a few people who are like, I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I've never seen it because I'm too much of a Freddie fan. I couldn't see it.
I did see it in theaters.
What'd you think?
And my dad saw it, and I was scared for my dad to see it because my dad has an encyclopedic knowledge on Queen.
You and I bonded. I remember sitting at didn't you have like 2 desktop computers like facing each other?
Yeah, we did have 2 desktop computers facing each other.
What kind of rich person were you? We could only afford one in my family. I remember going, and you would be on, I would be on the other, and we would go into MS Paint and like take pictures of you and me and Freddie and just like paste them together. Like early, we didn't know what Photoshop was at that point. No one had that unless you were a professional.
I think of another Queen memory we have too was we had to do a project where it was a group project. So you would take one person from each instrumental group. So I played the clarinet, our friend Meg of my Meg Song Spotify playlist fame played the flute, Nora played the trumpet, and then whatever other people we could wrangle into our
whoever
group.
we had to deal with,
Whoever else we had to deal with, where we would compose a song of our choice, and then we would have to transpose the different keys so that we could complete the arrangement for all of the instruments to play. And we chose Love of My Life by Queen, and it sounded so bad.
So bad. Tell me your favorite, like, B-side Queen song. You know, not one of their most, it could be somewhat famous. It could be on their greatest hit CD. They had 2 of them. So, like, you know, but a lesser known.
That's a question I can answer. I'm going to say the Millionaire Waltz from A Day at the Races.
I love that song so much.
I love that song.
Something about Freddie, just his voice is so beautiful, and it just made me happy. I used to mow the lawn and play my CD player, and I would listen to the Greatest Hits album. My sister played Bohemian Rhapsody. That's the first time I ever heard. I remember where I was, literally on the road, where I was near my house, when my sister played Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time, and I was like, what is this? This is heavenly angel music. She's like, it's Queen. And I'm like, tell me more. And she played Bicycle. Oh my God, my mind was blown. I was like, this is me. I also like to ride bicycles. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, so relatable. I feel like too, you know, when you mentioned how we would kind of like Photoshop ourselves in pictures and just like put random pictures of Freddie in places.
Where he has like this, he's riding on the Superman and one of us would be the Superman.
Yes, or like with the famous picture where with Darth Vader, I would send that to you often on your birthday. And I remember this was maybe like within the last 5 years, I sent it to you, or so I thought, but I think I accidentally sent it to someone else. And they were like, sorry, wrong number. Great picture though. And I'm like,
Nicole, how did you get my number wrong? I've had the same number since I was 14. 2004, my friends, I've had the same number.
No, I don't know what kind of like glitch in the matrix happened because, and I'm not doxing your phone number, and I can cut this if you want to.
Don't worry about
it. There's a song where there's a phone number. And it happens to be very similar. It's not the same, but similar
you might know
to your phone number. But I feel like at least people our age, maybe I have one other friend who would know that song.
That's the funny thing. Like, that was technically before our time. That came out before we were born. And,
right.
And now, like, I think that happened more often back then. Nowadays, like, I actually give my phone number quite a bit for my job. I have to leave my phone number for a callback. And I'm always expecting someone to be like, oh, yeah, like the song. And no one ever does. And I'm really upset by it. I've had that thing for 20 years. 20 years. My first cell phone, yeah.
I think that's so funny because now we think, or the default is like, oh, you know, you would think that people who are younger today, now that they have access to more information, they would be able to look up like, oh, that song from the 80s or whatever. But it's like, number one, they don't care. Like, younger people don't care about a song that came out 45 years ago. Like, they genuinely don't care.
Yeah.
And then also, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. And so most people don't have that innate sense of curiosity that I think that we really did when we were younger, where like we would know a song that came out before we were born, you know, whether it was our parents' influence or the quote oldies radio station or
Big D 103 or whatever. What was it? Big D?
Big D 103.
Big D 103. I'm like, yeah, that Big D. Yeah,
they've since changed their slogan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny, like, I don't, yeah, oldies, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've always had like a thing for older. Oh, and you know, I think a big deal for me was I used to watch a lot of TV. I think you did too. I used to watch a lot of TV. A lot of it was VH1 and MTV. And this was still at a time where already people were like, oh, MTV never plays videos. They still did at 6 a.m. when I was awake. So they would play videos there and then videos on VH1 in the morning. And so I've seen a lot of videos. They would also play behind the music. I love the 80s. I love the 90s. I learned a lot of my like trivia, like random little facts about history, pop culture from like, I love the 80s. I don't know. Like, I think it's really, I love nostalgia. I love to look back and just think like, wow, wasn't this funny? Or wow, this messed us all up. Like, I love that. I love to look at a lens like that.
Yeah, I always call that examining the past through a contemporary lens, because it's like we know what we know now and we didn't know what we didn't know then. And so to be able to look at it both ways and be like, okay, these things, it's not even through the idea of like, oh, this was better or worse, because everything is a product of its own cultural zeitgeist. Like every YouTube video or every like social media phenomenon, like it only could have happened like in the time that it happened. And even like the concept of nowstalgia that I'm always thinking about, it's like that was our nostalgia for Queen. Like we weren't there when they were in the peak of their popularity. Like we weren't there, and yet that was something that is truly like formative for us. And so to look at it, and, you know, I realized this kind of came full circle for me when I was standing in line in Target a few years ago, and there was this kid with a My Chemical Romance t-shirt, and I was like, he wasn't even alive for that album. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like with a Fleetwood Mac shirt on of an album that came out 12 years before I was born. So I think it's so funny that, you know, young people just want to like find their own way and like take the things that resonate with them. And as much as like, you know, now being the generation who's old enough to see the completion of a trend cycle and see things from our own lifetime come back, it's easy to be like, oh, people can't just like cherry pick what they want and like leave the rest. And it's like, actually they can, and we did too. I remember times where I remember the 80s was really big, like where bright colors and like certain things from the 80s was big, and then like boho 70s was big in high school for a second, and it's all cyclical. That's why I find it so funny, because you never think it's going to happen to you, and then it does, and people are wearing things that like you think are so out of touch, but they think it's really cool, and you're kind of like, oh, that is kind of cool, yeah. Like, that's why, like, Chris and I, we have this, like, new, we have this website, and we're just, like, we're kind of putting stuff on it that we wanted when we were kids. It's like, oh, I wanted those Jenkos. Like, I want those big pants. I want, like, the jelly shoes, or, like, or something clear. It has to be clear. It has to be clear plastic. That's all I want. Oh, yes. Translucent technology in clothing is extremely important to me.
Did you have, like, translucent stuff when you were a kid?
I had jellies for sure, like the fisherman style jellies. There was like an icy blue Memorex CD cassette recorder, like boombox. Actually, let me shift my camera so that you can see it. There's my boombox.
There it is. Oh.
So I got a boombox because I was just hyper fixating on it, and I'm like, I absolutely need this. So then I bought it, and now I have somewhere to play my CDs.
That's right.
That has made me very happy. I really want an iMac G3 desktop computer in blueberry or tangerine.
I wanted that in 2001. Yeah, I did. I still do. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show. It has been so fun chatting with you.
It has been fun.
Second of all, tell the people where they can find you. But third of all, tell the people more about how they can find your new store too.
Yay. Okay, yes. Okay, well, by the way, my name is Nora Woods. You can find me at the Nora Woods, NORAWOODS, on Instagram and Twitter. On TikTok, I am at Plumbun because I am a musician. I have music coming out soon. I have a bunch of singles. You can find me on anything. So at Plumbun, PLUMBUN, like a bun full of plums. And my husband and I, well, actually my husband, I'm just helping. My husband has created this incredible new store. It's an online store. It's called y2k.com. And it's going to be all your favorite, that Y2K stuff. Late 90s, okay, 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, fun stuff, clothes, accessories, things like that. We're both working on it. We're both behind it. And we're both really, we're trying to make it into a big, we want bespoke stuff. We want people to feature actual created things. So yeah, Y2K, it's, the letter Y, TOOKAY.com. And that's
Yay!
me. I'm sorry, that took forever. Oh God.
Oh my God, no. I'm like, the people need to know this because this is very important. And whenever I'm posting anything about little thrifting adventures that I take myself on, I love going in and seeing the stores that have this Y2K stuff and 2000 stuff. And
it's incredible.
You know what? Some of the people that own these stores are like 23 and 24. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you. Good for you.
But you don't know what it was like.
You don't know what it was like.
You don't know what it was like to have a cami and then a t-shirt and then a sweatshirt. Like you need to feel it. Yeah.
I'm like that I'm like that meme where it's The Sound of Music where she's playing the guitar and they're like all the kids sitting around. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, gather around everybody.
Yes.
Let me tell you about the early 2000s.
They were you are that person, Nicole. You were like the shepherd, the I don't know, the siren song of Y2K. Like you just need to let everyone know what's up.
You gotta know what's up. I love history, you know?
That's right.
I'm a historian.
I love it.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye. That's a wrap for this week. If you like Nicstalgia, connect with me on social at Nicole Tremaglio, subscribe to the Nicstalgia newsletter at nicstalgia.substack.com, and follow, rate, and review on your platform of choice. Everything's linked in the show notes, including where to find out more about our guest of the week. Thank you so much for your support, and that was this week's episode of Nicstalgia.